Amid continuing tensions between India and Maldives ever since his pro China president took office, will Indian troops, all 80 of them, be leaving the island nation? I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. Two very different statements from Maldives and the foreign ministry in India leaves a question mark. Will the military personnel be withdrawn or will they be replaced? That question remains open. India's foreign ministry had a very circumspect and somewhat cryptic statement, but the Maldives Foreign Ministry claimed that by May, in just a few months, all of the military personnel that are at aviation platforms in Maldives for humanitarian and technical assistance will be replaced. Remember, President Muizzu, seen to be partial to China, ran on an anti-India campaign. Since then, he's been, of course, facing turmoil at home with moves to impeach him. There's also been a kerfuffle between India and Maldives ever since a backlash erupted in Maldives with the Prime Minister posting photographs of his trip to Lakshadweep. To talk about what's happening actually behind and beneath the noise, we're joined by veteran diplomat, Ambassador Vivek Karju. Vivek Karju, thank you for your time. Ambassador, let me start by asking you, what do you make of the fact that there's so much fuss around the presence of 75 to 80 military personnel who have been stationed in Maldives only as a form of assistance to the people of Maldives? Yet you have a pro-China president who actually ran a campaign and got elected on the basis partially of that campaign to get these troops out. Now, we've seen two very different statements from our foreign ministry and the Maldives government. What do you make of it?
Look, I am myself somewhat confused because, as you have rightly said, these aren't quote unquote troops in the true sense of the term. They are military personnel to help the Maldives manage and run the aviation platforms that we've placed there for humanitarian purposes, for evacuation purposes, and in some cases for surveillance of their waters. Now, these obviously the Maldives doesn't have the expertise to run these platforms by themselves. I'm sure some kind of training is going on of Maldives personnel. So there would be a Maldives presence whenever these platforms are used. So the fuss that the current president is making, Muizzu is making, is actually political in nature.
But given the politics, how should India be responding, right? We've seen this sort of strange noise erupt between India and Maldives. It's clearly not about beach tourism. It's clearly about something much deeper. We've seen this new government in Maldives move closer to China. His first visit was to China. And now we see all of this noise around these 80 Indian personnel. And even as I ask you this question, I see Ahmed Adib, former Vice President of Maldives, joining us on the program. Welcome, sir. We were waiting for you. I'll just let Ambassador complete his point and then I'll come to you. Ambassador Karju, please go ahead.
Look, as far as I'm concerned, uh, our neighborhood policy is one which offers cooperation to our neighbors. And I think the Prime Minister said it very well many years ago when he offered our neighbors Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, that we take the neighborhood along with us.
Mhm.
Now, having said that, quite clearly, we cannot and we should not allow any of our neighbors to become centers from where Indian security is threatened. That is something that any country would expect. Pakistan is, of course, a separate case, but anywhere else, if we see foreign powers use a neighbor as a base from where anti-India activities are being undertaken, then that is and should not be acceptable to India. Then India should draw. Therefore, I have argued that India should clearly draw red lines with respect to all our neighbors. Now, that doesn't mean infringing their sovereignty. If they wish to have close relations with any country in the world, it is for them to decide. But like any other country, we can't our own sovereignty and integrity be threatened from any other neighbor or any other country.
I think that's exactly right. But Mr. Adib, as an opposition leader, who and the opposition has been calling for the impeachment of President Muizzu, how do you see these developments where the 75 to 80 Indian military personnel there for humanitarian assistance to the people of Maldives are being asked to pull back? Maldives is claiming that this deal is already done. Our government is somewhat more circumspect. How do you see it as an opposition leader?
Thank you for having me here. Um, Actually, as I or earlier on a show as well, I mentioned this India out came in the elections, which came from President Yamin, former President Yamin, and it was former President Yamin who signed these agreements. I was there as a cabinet minister, so this was for humanitarian aid, and any country will not give their military equipment or vessels to another country. So there will be military personnel to run and operate and maintain those vessels. So those agreements are done retrospectively, and then it has been following for a couple of years, and it immensely benefited Maldivians. So suddenly now they have politicized it. They have said military out, India out, and they politicized in the last election. And President Muiz has inherited this India out campaign, as well as he inherited this party from President Yamin. Now they are have gone sideways, but still he is continuing on this campaign. But it's very sad to see that it's been politicized, and then they are saying that the military personnel
We
has to
we
be out.
also
But
we also read reports that he declined the use of an air ambulance. He declined the use of because it was India owned, the Dornier, that a young child actually died because he couldn't get help in time. I don't know how true this is. This is what one reads in Maldives media. What's actually happening? Why is the anti-India sentiment? If the people of Maldives are benefiting from this, why is this anti-India sentiment and sloganeering working?
as I told you, it started from the election, and suddenly President Yamin and Dr. Muiz, President Muiz has a fallout. So within that, Muiz has inherited this campaign. So I think President Muiz thinks that by continuing this campaign, he can hold together the party and the support when we are leading to a parliament elections, which will be decided in March. So everything building up to that, it's being politicized. The whole India Out campaign is a political issue, and I think it's a very baseless issue. And a lot of we are getting, I think, as you rightly said, we need those vessels to be operated, helicopters to be operated for evacuation. If you want to stop it, you have to have the alternative, and we don't have the alternative yet. So it is very sad to see everything is being politicized, and it's very going further down. I think by after only elections only we'll see some stability. But on the way to the elections, what I see is this issue has been politicized from left to right.
Yeah, Ambassador Kaju, let's talk about the China factor. One could also argue this the other way. Why does India need Maldives? Despite all the tensions, we've actually seen that from a 400 crore spend in the last financial year, the budget allocates 600 crores in financial aid to Maldives. It's less than the assigned amount last year, but much more than the actual amount spent. Now, does this signal to you that India didn't really take the spat over the Lakshadweep pictures too seriously, that India is carrying on, that there is a China factor. India is well aware of that, and India is not going to overreact to some of the more provocative language that has come from public figures in Maldives.
Look, as a large country, as the largest country in the region, I think we have to have big shoulders and learn how to ignore what you call provocative language. I mean, such language is part of a political discourse in some of the neighborhood, and if I was involved, I would simply turn a deaf ear to it. What matters more to me is actions being taken by our neighbors.
Mhm.
Now, As far as Lakshadweep is concerned, I think that the Prime Minister or any other person is fully within his or her rights to promote Lakshadweep for domestic tourism in India. After
Yeah,
all, Lakshadweep is part of India, and it is perfectly justified to say that Lakshadweep, more and more Indian tourists should go to visit Lakshadweep as just as they should go to visit other parts of India. What perhaps was wrong was for some people to say that uh, go to Lakshadweep but don't go to Maldives. They're two separate things. Maldives
yeah,
is a foreign sovereign country, and to draw a linkage between domestic Indian tourism with tourism to a foreign country is not particularly wise. But
yeah,
that is where it was also for the government of Maldives to accept that there is a distinction, and if there are some people in India who are saying this, then they could be told that if you go to Lakshadweep, you can also come to Maldives. I mean, they're not mutually exclusive. But the real issue is that why is the opposition in Maldives on the back foot on this issue? Why
yeah,
can't they explain it to their people? Our
yeah,
good friend is here. Why can't they explain it to their people that look, these aren't Indian troops, they are not combat troops. India doesn't have a base in Maldives. What
yeah.
India has positioned are aviation platforms, and these are being managed by Indians uh, personnel because jointly, I'm sure there is a joint presence of the Maldives, but exclusively they can't be used by the Maldives because, as our friend rightly said, Maldives doesn't have the personnel to operate them by itself.
Yes.
So, why is the opposition on the back foot on this? I don't understand that.
Mr. Adib, would you like to take that? Why are you not? You yourself say our people have benefited from this. We need this. We need it for medical and humanitarian assistance. So why has President Muizzu been able to create an issue out of it? Why is this? Why are you not being able to counter it more effectively?
I think the opposition has countered it, but as you see, the government is making it an issue. If you see all the India Out campaigns, they have never been more than 50 to 100 people. So the public is not an issue for the public. It's an issue for the political party which has some extreme kind of mentality and ideology there. So I think the opposition parties and the public of Maldives accepted the fact that the medical evacuations was actually, as you mentioned earlier, the child who died because of the lack of evacuation.
Hmm.
Actually, the people in those islands protested for the helicopters to be used. So
Hmm.
this is nothing public, and Maldivian people is not behind this. It's a political party and the government which is doing this. So
And how do you see the role of China? Because there are a lot of our diplomats who see China's hands all over these troubles. And before I give Ambassador Karju the last word, do you see a China hand?
what I see is that Maldives, the current government is trying to play that card, India against China. But what I would say that is, even the last trip to China, Maldives has not been able to secure the financing which requires the deficit financing and also the debt payments that has to be made within the next 2 years. So if you see last 25 years, it has always been India who has come to our budget support, was given the budget support, and even now they are supporting even in this
Yeah.
difficult situation. So actually, it's not only India, but Maldives also needs India, I would say.
Maldives needs India. Ambassador Kaju, let me end with a question that many people of our audience might be wondering. Why does India need Maldives?
Look, in Maldives is a neighbor, close maritime neighbor.
Yeah.
India has to have uh, viable relations with all its neighborhood. Uh, the, the neighborhood has to go forward together, and as such, India has been a partner. That's part of normal diplomatic processes. Now, it is also a fact that China has been very assertive, very aggressive in India's immediate neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that is why I've been saying that, and China has finances. Now, they might not be very forthcoming with Maldives, but we know that they've been forthcoming elsewhere in India's neighborhood. That is why I've been urging that India has clearly to draw red lines and tell its neighbors that, look, you can do whatever you want. But what we will not, I'm sorry to use a word, uh, it, uh, what we can't permit is our own Indian security to be jeopardized. And if
And
that is jeopardized,
do you see a danger of that? Do you see a danger of that emerging with Maldives and China's long shadow? Before I close.
well, we'll have to wait and watch. We'll have to see what actually China is doing on the ground or in the waters in Maldives, and that is something that is easily pickable at the moment. We have the technological means to know exactly what is happening. And if
Okay.
something is happening which is against our interests, then we should use all our capabilities and wherewithal to protect our interests. I don't need to spell it out any further. That is
Okay.
what any country will do. Any
We
country of India's size and dimension and potential and capacity will do.
I think that's quite clear. And Mr. Adib, I think Ambassador Kaju's question remains that the opposition needs to, get that word out. If the people of Maldives do see India as a benevolent neighbor, and these troops being not combat troops, but actually running humanitarian, medical, and technical aviation platforms, then why has this become a political issue at all? We'll leave it there. We'll wait and see how the story develops. Ambassador Kaju and to former Vice President of Maldives, Ahmed Adib, thank you for your time on the program today. Take care and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mojo's Story has always made a commitment to its viewers to go to where the story is. And as you can see here, we are at the epicenter of the Israel war on Gaza. We are right at the front line, about 1 mile from the Gaza Strip, as the Israeli military gets ready with its tanks and its gunners to begin its final frontal assault that will take troops into Gaza. As we said, we are not like other organizations. We believe in giving you all sides of the story objectively and as much as possible from the ground. And that's exactly what we're doing here, covering the biggest global story today from the epicenter of the war zone. So please, we need your support. Support us, become a Mojo member, subscribe to us, spread the word, and thank you for your support.